Right. So today we're going to be taking a deep dive into Mark Zuckerberg,
Okay.
and looking at, how he built his fortune
Right.
and what we can learn from his journey as entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
We'll be looking at excerpts from the Forbes profile on Mark Zuckerberg as of November 30th, 2024.
Fresh off the presses.
Fresh off the presses.
Yeah.
Yeah, so really looking at, how did he become one of the richest people in the world?
Mm-hmm.
And we're really going to try to unpack that.
Yeah.
And then, what can we as aspiring entrepreneurs learn from that journey?
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, it's really a fascinating story because it's not just about the money with Zuckerberg. It's really about the decisions and the adaptations that took him from, a Harvard dorm room to being, one of the most influential people in the world.
yeah, exactly. And it's not about, us being envious of his wealth. It's about understanding how he got there,
Yeah,
what he did.
exactly.
And I think, there's a lot of takeaways for us, even if we're not, aiming to be, a tech giant,
Right.
whether we're just, starting our own small business or side hustle.
Absolutely. And I think, everyone knows the basic Facebook story of the college kid who, built this platform to connect with classmates.
Yep.
But what's really fascinating to me is the problem that he was trying to solve.
Okay.
And it wasn't just about, connecting with people socially. It was like, matching names to faces in this huge college environment.
Oh, okay. I see
Yeah.
what you're saying. It was a practical solution first.
Yeah,
And then it kind of blew up into this
Yeah.
this massive social network.
exactly.
But, even back in those early days, you could see that he was making decisions that hinted at his ambition.
Yeah.
I mean, he dropped out of Harvard.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, huge risk.
most people would never take that gamble.
Yeah, it shows, that calculated risk taking, right? Like he realized that, the potential of Facebook was so huge that it was, worth, leaving his studies.
Yeah.
It wasn't just reckless, it was really focused. And, combine that with his technical skills. Like he actually built the platform himself. He was
Yeah.
coding it.
Yeah, so you really see that blend of vision and execution early on.
Right.
But how does someone go from like coding in their dorm room to, being worth billions of dollars?
Yeah, I mean, this is where the concept of equity comes in. And, it's not just about salary, it's about owning a piece of the pie.
Yeah.
So he didn't start making money from ad revenue right away.
Right.
His wealth came from owning, a huge chunk of Facebook stock.
Yeah, okay. So it's like Facebook is this pie.
Yeah,
And owning stock is owning a slice of the pie.
exactly.
And as the pie gets bigger, your slice gets more value.
Exactly. And his slice is massive.
Yeah.
Because he was there at the beginning.
Right from the start.
But what's interesting is he didn't just sit back and watch the pie grow.
Yeah.
He was constantly, making decisions to bake an even bigger pie.
Right.
And, one of the most important was the decision to go public.
Ah, yes, the IPO.
The IPO in 2012.
Yeah, that's when Facebook went from a private company to one that anyone could invest in.
Exactly.
And that seems like a pivotal point, not just for the money, but also just in terms of how people viewed Facebook. Suddenly everyone's talking about it.
Yeah, he's a major player.
And everyone's talking about this young CEO.
Yeah, exactly. It gives him, the capital to grow even more, and it solidifies him as, this major player.
Yeah.
But it also brought increased scrutiny. People started asking questions about, privacy and, how Facebook was influencing, elections and things like that.
Yeah, it wasn't all, smooth sailing from there.
Right,
There
yeah.
was the data scandal, the spread of misinformation.
Yeah.
I mean, he's faced some real challenges.
Right.
And, how did he handle those? And did that kind of force him to adapt his leadership style?
He definitely had to evolve. And, what's interesting is his ability to adapt to changing circumstances. Like when he was faced with all this criticism,
Yeah.
he, sometimes reluctantly, but he made changes
Right.
to, address these concerns.
Yeah.
And I think he's always trying to balance this vision that he has
Yeah.
with the reality of, running a platform with billions of users.
Yeah, that must be a really difficult balance to strike.
Yeah.
On the one hand, he wants to innovate,
Right.
but on the other hand, he's got to think about the impact
Yeah.
on society.
Yeah. And it's a tightrope walk, and he's definitely stumbled a few times.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think some of his weaknesses have been exposed.
Okay.
Like he's been criticized for, being too focused on his own vision and not really listening to other people.
Right.
And, being slow to acknowledge problems. And that's led to some, PR nightmares.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. So it's a much more complex picture than, just, brilliant, bold moves.
It's also about, learning from mistakes, adapting to criticism.
Yeah, and that's a crucial lesson, I think, for any entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Like, you can't be afraid to make tough decisions, even if they're unpopular.
Yeah.
And you have to be willing to learn from your mistakes. It's not about being perfect.
Yeah.
It's about being resilient and evolving.
Yeah. I think that's a fantastic point and really something to think about as we go forward. We've seen how his early decisions and that risk tolerance really set the stage for his wealth.
Right.
But we've also seen, maybe some vulnerabilities in his approach.
Exactly.
And it's a good reminder that, even the most successful journeys have these twists and turns.
Right.
And how you navigate those challenges is just as important
Totally.
as the vision.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that, even as Facebook matured,
Yeah.
he continued to make these bold moves, like the whole rebranding to Meta.
Right.
And the push into the metaverse.
Yeah.
These weren't decisions that were driven by necessity.
They were strategic bets on the future.
Yeah. So it's not about maintaining the status quo.
Right.
It's about pushing the boundaries and anticipating what's next.
Exactly.
And I think that's a perfect segue into what we're going to talk about next.
Okay. Let's dive in. Yeah. So let's talk about Meta and the Metaverse, because it was more than just a name change.
Yeah.
It was really, him declaring his ambition to shape the next era of online interaction.
Okay. So for anyone who's not totally up to speed on all this, can you break down what the Metaverse actually is?
Sure.
Because I feel like there's still a lot of confusion around it. Is it just a fancy video game?
Yeah.
Like a virtual world? Help us out.
You're right. It's a term that gets thrown around a lot, but think of it as, this persistent, immersive online world.
Okay.
That kind of blends aspects of social media and gaming and virtual reality. And, he envisions a future where, we work and socialize and even shop.
Wow.
In these digital spaces.
It sounds like something straight out of science fiction. But, this wasn't just a whim. He invested heavily in this vision.
Yeah.
Was it purely a business decision, or was there something more driving him?
I mean, it's a risky bet, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people saw it as, a way to distract from Facebook's problems.
Okay.
Like a shiny new toy to divert attention.
Right.
But I think there's a deeper motivation there.
Okay.
I mean, he's always been fascinated by pushing the boundaries of technology.
Yeah.
And I think he sees the metaverse as the next logical step in how we connect online. And he wants to be at the forefront of that.
So it's like that ambition, but also this genuine belief in the technology that's fueling this investment.
Exactly.
And it hasn't been an easy road.
No.
I mean, Meta stock took a hit. There were layoffs.
Yeah.
That whole year of efficiency thing, it seems like maybe they overextended themselves.
Yeah. I mean, there have been growing pains.
Yeah.
Building a metaverse isn't like launching a new app.
Right.
It requires, massive investment. And it's a huge hurdle to convince people to embrace this new way of interacting online.
Yeah. It's one thing to scroll through your feed, but to strap on a VR headset and hang out with digital avatars.
Yeah.
That's a big ask.
It's a big ask.
So how's he handling these setbacks? Has he changed his approach at all?
I think we've seen a shift towards pragmatism.
Okay.
Like the year of efficiency was about streamlining operations, focusing resources on key projects.
Yeah.
And, there's a sense that he's learning to balance, his grand vision with the reality of the market and the need to deliver results.
So adapting to feedback, tightening a belt a little less,
Yeah.
Pie in the sky thinking.
Exactly.
It seems like he's becoming a more seasoned leader, even if it's through tough lessons.
Yeah. And that's another key takeaway, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about having a brilliant idea.
Right.
It's about navigating the ups and downs,
Yeah.
making tough decisions.
Yeah.
And sometimes that means scaling back your ambition. Survive?
Knowing when to double down and when to pivot.
Exactly.
That strategic agility really seems like one of his strengths.
Yeah.
Even if it's sometimes, masked by this relentless pursuit of his vision.
Right.
But let's shift gears a bit here. We've talked a lot about business.
Yeah.
But there's another side to him that I think is worth exploring.
Okay.
His philanthropy.
Right. The pledge to donate 99% of his Facebook wealth.
That was huge.
Yeah.
I mean, it totally reshaped public perception of him.
It did.
Was it just a PR move to rehab his image after all the controversy, or was there something more genuine at play?
Right.
I mean, that's a level of giving that's almost unheard of.
Yeah, it's impossible to know his true motivations.
Right.
But I think the actions speak for themselves.
Okay.
You know, the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, which he founded with his wife Priscilla Chan, it's not just about writing checks.
Okay.
They're tackling some of the world's biggest challenges.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this initiative. What sets it apart from traditional philanthropy?
Well, they're focused on, long-term systemic change.
Okay.
Their mission is to advance human potential and promote equality. And they're doing everything from education reform to criminal justice reform.
Wow.
To scientific research.
That's a broad scope.
Yeah.
It's almost like they're taking his tech world playbook and applying it to solving social problems.
Yeah, big ambitious goals.
Right.
Disruptive approaches.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how his mindset translates to a different arena.
Yeah, and they're not afraid to take risks and challenge conventional wisdom.
Yeah.
Like their BioHub project is a massive investment in biomedical research with this crazy goal of curing all diseases in our lifetime.
Curing all diseases?
Yeah.
That sounds wildly ambitious.
It is.
Even for someone like him, are they actually making progress, or is it just hype?
I mean, they've made significant investments, attracting top scientists, fostering collaboration. It's early days, but there's potential there.
So it's not just empty promises.
Right.
There's real substance behind their efforts.
Yeah.
But it does make you wonder, is this philanthropic drive, a genuine desire to make the world a better place? Or is it a way to atone for, the unintended consequences of Facebook? I mean, that's a question each listener has to grapple with for themselves.
Right.
But what's undeniable is that, his wealth is being deployed to tackle some of the world's biggest challenges.
It is.
And that in itself is pretty remarkable.
Yeah. It's really interesting, right?
Yeah.
We've seen how, his risk-taking and his adaptability and this relentless pursuit of his vision built this empire. But now we're seeing those same traits applied to something beyond just making money.
Yeah, it's almost like he's entered this new phase of his journey.
Yeah.
Where his impacts, goes way beyond the digital world.
And that's what makes his story so compelling.
Yeah.
It's not just about, creating wealth. It's about the evolution of a leader, grappling with these really complex issues and using, these vast resources to try to make a difference.
It's a reminder that even the most successful entrepreneurs are constantly evolving.
Right.
Learning from their mistakes and trying to shape a legacy that goes beyond the bottom line.
Exactly. And for aspiring entrepreneurs,
yeah,
his story offers, these valuable lessons about the importance of vision and resilience and strategic decision-making.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, from the early days of Facebook to the Metaverse gamble to, Chan Zuckerberg initiative. But there's one more piece of the puzzle we need to examine.
Okay.
And that's his leadership style.
Yeah.
And what we can learn from his approach to building and managing a global company.
Okay. Let's delve into that.
Yeah, because it has been both praised and criticized. And I think understanding the nuances of that can be really valuable for anyone who aspires to lead. When you think about his leadership style, what words come to mind? Intense-driven, a little robotic.
Yeah, he's definitely not your, typical charismatic leader.
Yeah.
He's often described as, data-driven, analytical, even a little aloof.
I've heard him called robotic in interviews. Is that a fair assessment, or is that just people misreading him?
I think it's more nuanced than that.
Yeah.
I think, his strengths lie in his strategic thinking, his ability to see the big picture, and make those bold bets on the future.
Yeah.
He's not afraid to disrupt the status quo.
So that classic Silicon Valley disruptor mentality, move fast, break things, figure it out as you go.
To a certain extent, yes, but there's also, I think, a deep intellectual curiosity there.
Okay.
He's known for, his love of learning, constantly wanting to learn new things. He's not just interested in building products. He wants to understand the technology behind them.
Right.
The societal implications, the long-term impact.
Yeah, that probably explains the fascination with the metaverse. It's not just about making money. It's about exploring new frontiers.
Exactly.
And that drive to explore and innovate. I think that's something that aspiring entrepreneurs can really learn from.
Absolutely.
It's about being curious, challenging assumptions, being willing to take risks, even if they seem crazy to other people.
Yeah, and there's a flip side to that risk-taking, right? Sometimes those risks don't pay off. And he's faced, his fair share of criticism for, some of the missteps along the way.
Yeah. How has his leadership style evolved in response to those challenges?
Well, I think he's had to learn to be more responsive to public concerns, more sensitive to the ethical implications of his decisions.
Yeah.
And I think there's a sense that he's become more aware of the need for diverse perspectives,
Okay.
and a more inclusive approach to making decisions.
So less top-down control, more collaboration.
Exactly.
Sounds like he's realizing that even the most brilliant minds need to be open to feedback
Yeah,
and willing to adapt.
absolutely. And that's a crucial lesson for any leader.
Right.
Yeah. It's not about having all the answers. It's about creating an environment where, people feel empowered to share their ideas.
Yeah.
Challenge assumptions and, contribute to the success.
And that shift toward a more collaborative approach, it
Yeah.
seems like we see that reflected in his philanthropy as well.
Right.
The Chan Zuckerberg Initiative is all about partnerships.
Yeah, bringing together experts from different fields to tackle these complex problems.
Yeah, they're not trying to solve everything themselves.
Right.
They're acting as catalysts, conveners and funders.
Exactly. Empowering others to drive change.
Yeah, it's a different kind of leadership. It's about, collaboration, shared goals, rather than top-down control.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? It's like he's taking what he's learned in the business world
Yeah.
and applying it to philanthropy.
It's like the most effective way to tackle these big challenges
Yeah.
is to build these coalitions,
Yeah.
empower diverse voices, create a sense of shared purpose.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Mark Zuckerberg, what are the key takeaways that we want our listeners to really think about?
Well, I think there are a few key themes that emerge. First, the importance of vision and the courage to pursue it even when people doubt you. Second, the power of adaptability and that willingness to learn from mistakes.
Yeah.
And finally, the recognition that true success isn't just about personal achievement.
Right.
It's about using your influence to make a positive impact on the world.
So well said. It's about leaving a legacy that goes beyond just wealth and status. A legacy that reflects your values and your commitment to making the world a better place. And that's something worth striving for no matter what your goals are. Thanks for joining us.